Good evening, I'm DK Rossa. Welcome back to the TTT News. Sustain TT is a non-profit company dedicated to creating a platform for education, information sharing, and social marketing of behaviors that are necessary to better manage the environment while diversifying the economy. Now, the Green Screen Environment Film Festival works to bring relevant environmental issues to communities in an entertaining and engaging way. We're joined this evening by the festival director, Carver Bacchus, and he is going to tell us more. So thank you for joining us, Carver, and your thoughts on approaching a 10th edition.
Thank you very much for having me, DK. Yeah, 10 years is a long time. It's a long time to look back on and reflect on, what has changed, for the better, and what, in terms of our environment in Trinidad and Tobago, what seems to persist. We do feel as though the festival has made an impact. We have a lot of sort of anecdotal evidence of people's behavior changing, and certainly I can say that after 10 years, there would have been high school students, primary school students even, who would have engaged with the festival over that period of time, and now the initial cohort, so to speak, of those young audience members are, part of the working population, and a lot of them, more of them than I would have thought, are actually working in environmental spaces, whether it's with the government or NGOs or on their own. So we feel good about the progress we're making.
No, this year promises to be a very different one, with a pivot to being totally digital. Take me through that process, the incremental steps.
Right. So, of course, the festival, the previous 9 editions have all been face-to-face festivals where we host our audience, where we engage with our audience. Sometimes we feed and water our audience with the different events that we have. So it was really built on this sort of touch point, where we can reach out directly and speak to our audience members and have them engage directly with panels and discussions. But with the advent of the pandemic, of course, that is no longer reasonable to try to execute. So we've had to sort of figure out the best ways to transmit or transfer these sorts of experiences into the online space. We do have several platforms, so to speak, where we will be sharing our content this year. We have a brand new spanking brand. We actually redid our brand this year, and we have a new website. So there will be a program available via our website that will be broken down into thematic packages. So if people want to look at films about climate change or conservation, or heritage and sustainability, they will be able to look at all those in one package. All they need to do is register for the festival on our website, greenscreen.film. But we will also have a program running on Facebook Live and YouTube Live, which will consist of films and talks and panels as well. And we also recently brought another partner on board a couple partners actually, that are going to help with distribution of our very shorts mobile film competition finalists in particular. These are finalists from the competition where we ask people to develop 1-minute shorts using their mobile phones on an environmental theme. This year the theme was the new normal, and those will be distributed via TTT this year, as well as our website, as well as by our social media. And we also have Playgo by Digicel. Playgo is an app that you can download onto your mobile device, and we're going to have our full finalist roster up on the Playgo app as well, that our audience will be able to access, along with the other Digicel Playgo content that they have on the app.
Now, you gave me a lot of points there, so we're going to try to go through some of them one by one. No,
Okay.
and we look at the rebrand. Has that rebrand changed the focus of the festival or the initiative any?
I would say it hasn't changed it, but it certainly forced us to focus on what is important to the festival, and it forced us to attempt to figure out who our audience is and who our audience should be. It's really sort of focused our thinking around the future of the festival, because the rebrand was going to happen regardless. It was in the works before the pandemic. So, it really was, I suppose, timely that we decided to rebrand and we're going to be online and all of these big changes for the festival, really. But it was really an exercise in focusing our thinking around programming and focusing our thinking around audience development, which is very important for a film festival. Certainly one that's responsible to a large degree for distribution of film content.
Now, the festival itself is from October 29 to November 2. But before that, there are online discussions. What was the thinking of having those discussions before the festival, and what do those discussions entail?
Right. Well, we feel as though we wanted to make sure that there was enough bandwidth, so to speak, for these discussions to happen, for people to realize they're happening, for people to log on and sort of for the traction to develop organically as it does online, as we've noticed over the last couple of months. So we wanted to ensure that we had enough time and space to start to curate our audience properly. That is part of the reason for starting 2 weeks before the actual festival launch, which, as you said, is October 9th, and the festival runs to November 2nd. But of course, the purpose ultimately of the discussions are really to attempt to tease out some of the ideas that we consider important to Trinidad and Tobago and perhaps the region in the context of sustainability in the wake of the pandemic. So the first discussion is really focused on technology and food security. We paired these two because we feel as though they have a relationship that needs to bear some fruit in the Trinidad and Tobago context. And we assembled a panel that I think is very strong and can bring very different perspectives on how we can leverage technology to ensure that we have food security into the future. And it's not only in the context of the pandemic, but certainly, the realities of climate change and climate change adaptation, behoove us to move in this direction. The other talk, that first talk takes place on the 15th of October, which is this Thursday. The second talk is about energy and transportation. And once again, those two sort of themes play off of one another. And like the first panel, those issues are very much sort of at the fore of general discussion in Trinidad and Tobago now. Energy security, the changes that are happening with the retail distribution of fuel, the changes that are going to come with the revision of the TNTech rates. There's change coming. There's change coming, and it's been long in coming, but it's coming, and we need to figure out what the opportunities are and how we can leverage our strengths in this space so that we're better off than we are now, hopefully. It's a question of sustainability, it's a question of survival. But I think that, this talk, will show that we have a lot of local talent, that we have a lot of local, technical understanding of the issues related to energy and transportation and their solutions that may not be, so difficult or so expensive, So I hope that people can log on and join the conversations.
And you'll tell us how people can log on when we return from this break. We're speaking with Festival Director of the Green Screen Film Festival, which is on October 29 to November 2. Before that, this Thursday, we have the first online discussion. We speak so much more when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are speaking with Carver Bacchus about the Green Screen Film Festival, and it is celebrating its 10th event this time around. Now, we were talking about the online discussions that happened before the official, well, I don't want to say the official start, but the online discussions. And give us an idea, please, Carver, when that is, because I know you said the first one is October 15, and
Yes.
I gather it's at 7 p.m., but how do people log on and avail themselves of that discussion?
Right, so that first discussion on October 15th at 7 p.m. will be on Facebook Live via our Green Screen page. So just search for @GreenScreenTT on Facebook or YouTube, and it's going to come up, and we will be live from 7 p.m. We're going to include some relevant shorts, as well as some other content that Sustain TNT has developed over the years relevant to the issues under discussion. But it's very easy to find, even if you're not on Facebook all the time, just find our page and we will be live. You can actually go onto the page and set a reminder for yourself now, so that when we are about to go live on Thursday, you will get a pop-up reminding you that Green Screen is about to go live and you can join.
And one of the things I appreciate just looking at some of the faces, because there are two that often I don't necessarily know just by face, but I see Alpha Senon, I see Bridget Joseph, I also see Rizan Martin. I know sometimes for people to call you an expert, you need to be old like the road, your beard needs to be down to the ground, but at the same time, these are people who seem to be living and practicing what they preach. So you can't tell them what they are, because they're living in their reality, so they can bring that knowledge to bear. And I also like the fact that they all seem to be under a certain age bracket, so which makes it a little more appealing to certain demographics, as opposed to people saying, so why should I be interested in these old people talking about things that I know nothing about? And saying, okay, well, it resonates, it can resonate with me a little more, so this is something that I think I want to tune into. But the festival, apparently there are new categories, and I see one being Plant Your Roots. So tell me about those new categories, thanks.
Okay, so the festival, basically there are two main parts of the festival. There's the main Green Screen Environmental Festival, where we screen films from all over the world and locally about different environmental and sustainability issues. And then there's the Very Short Shorts mobile film competition that started 3 years ago now. And we have had excellent response from the general public. People, the whole idea behind the competition is really to sort of democratize the whole filmmaking space. If you have a phone, you can make a film. Only 1 minute long. You apply good, sensible filmmaking technique, and you have an excellent chance of selection as a finalist. Over the previous 2 years, we've had 3 main categories: overall jury winner, youth jury winner, and people's choice, right, which is determined by audience votes. But this year, in collaboration with Carifil Alliance, we decided to have an extra category, which is called the Plant Your Roots category, where contestants or competitors had to include the term plant your roots somewhere in the film. It's really about bringing some awareness to the importance of planting trees and the importance of food security and the importance of, basically sort of getting your hands dirty in the space in terms of planting trees and climate change mitigation and all the benefits that come with tree planting. It's actually part of a regional effort to plant 1 million trees. So Carifil Alliance approached us and basically thought it would be a good addition to the festival. And we have some really good submissions for that section. So we're very, very keen to share it with our audience in a little over 2 weeks from now.
No, before we continue, I want to make a little qualifier. When I spoke about the panelists, and it seems as though they're not quite as long in the tooth as some others, I wasn't saying old people rock so, because blessed are the elders. But sometimes it seems as though we don't find anybody in the middle of having some age, but also having some of that energy, that youthful energy to go with it. So let me just make that qualifier before we move forward.
No, well, I'm glad that you brought it back up, DK, because it was a deliberate on our part to you know, get younger panelists, you know, maybe not necessarily you know, teenagers, but you know, young people, you know, people sub 40, sub mid 40s, 30s, 20s, who are, you know, walking the walk, so to speak, and sort of, you know, putting their work, you know, out there and making waves and having a position, you know, on the development of our society. So it was by no mistake that this group of people was asked to participate in the panel. They're all heavy hitters in their own right. And, you know, from our programming perspective, we want to engage people like that, and we want to share those conversations and those engagements and that crosstalk and those ideas with our audience. You know, that is what Green Screen is all about. You know, again, not that the elders, you know, we do not have regard and respect for the elders. I myself, no spring chicken, you know, but you know, I think it's important to engage with you know, younger people who have fresh ideas and who have been, you know, sort of having to figure workarounds, you know, having to sort of be innovative in doing things in a space like Trinidad and Tobago that does not always facilitate, does not always support. You know, this is just the reality, you know. So if you're able to be successful and stamp your bit of ownership on the landscape, you know, we hold you and that in high regard, and that is why that panel is so constituted.
Now, I see you're speaking about engagement and who it is you're engaging. Now, you're also engaging sponsors and people who are impacting the financial side. Who are some of those individuals, and what are they allowing you to do because of their support?
Right. Well, I'm glad you asked that question, and I didn't have to try and squeeze it in. I'm sure my sponsors would be very happy with EK. Yeah, you know, this year, it's not a normal year, you know, and we were lucky that very early on this year, NGC, you know, came on board as a lead sponsor, and they have been, you know, very supportive of our program and what we're trying to achieve with the festival, certainly in 2020. We also have sponsorship from Swim Call, who's actually been one of our key sponsors. I think this might be the third or fourth year that Swim Call has been a part of Green Screen. They have been a stalwart supporter in many ways. And of course, Film TT is our constant patron as the sort of government entity responsible for film and festivals in Trinidad and Tobago. And this year we also have partners in digital media partners in the form of Loop TT and Trend Media, who we thank very much for all the support they're giving us via social media, via their news platform, and so on. And of course, as I mentioned before, we have our new distribution partners, TTT, as well as Digicel Playgo. So we're really excited to roll all of this out. People have multiple channels to access the content. And yeah, I mean, we hope that this group of sponsors would continue to stick around with the festival.
And we hope so too, and we hope so too, Carver, but we can't stick around at this point in time. But we want to thank you very much for joining us and giving us some insight and raising the appetite for the green screen. And congratulations once more on 10 times around. But also on behalf of the entire news team, I want to say thank you for joining us. I'm DK Roster. Have a good night.